Kakadosh Boker Or Masechet Zevachim Daf Yomi Daf Lamed Amud Aleph 34a. We're starting on the top of the Gemara, where the Gemara comes and it says as follows: Tanya Kavatid the Shakish. We went and we learned in accordance with the Shakish. It says Bechol Kodesh Lo Tiga. What does it mean Bechol Kodesh Lo Tiga? It's an azara leochel. It's an azara for somebody that's going to eat basar kodesh betum'ah. Ata omer azara leochel lenogea. Are you going to tell me it's for eating or only just touching? So Talmud Omer Bechol Kodesh Lo Tiga v'Mikdash Lo Tivo. Makish Kodesh leMikdash v'Makish Mikdash. Right, just like he's saying, so making a hekesh between the Kodesh and the Mikdash, just like the Mikdash is davar sheyesh bo netilat neshama. We're on the top of Lamed Daled Amud Aleph, right? 34a on the top, right? So too, we're talking about the Yisur of Kodesh is talking about davar sheyesh bo netilat neshama. V'yi nogea, and what we're talking about now, we're talking about mamash nogea bekodesh netilat neshama miika. There's no netilat neshama. There's no chiyuv karet. Okay, so he says ela ba'achila. We're talking about that you're eating it. Okay, which means that if a person's tameh and he's eating basar kodesh, there's chiyuv karet. Okay, so he says va'akati mibaylehem. We still have the question letameh sha'achal basar kodesh lifnei zrika. We still need this for according to the Shakish for a tameh that he ate the basar kodesh before the zrikat adam. That means there's no karet, right? So he says di'itmar tameh sha'achal basar kodesh lifnei zrika. This Shakish amar, the Shakish comes and he says lokeh. Rabbi Yochanan amar, Rabbi Yochanan says eno lokeh. He's not going to be lokeh. Resh Lakish amar lokeh. Resh Lakish says he's lokeh bechol kodesh lo tiga. Right? Lo shna lifnei zrika v'lo shna lifnei la'achar zrika. There's no difference between before or after zrika. Rabbi Yochanan amar eno lokeh. Rabbi Yochanan says eno lokeh. Kedetani Bardela, just like Bardela taught, atya tumato tumato. We're making gzira shava. Tumato, meaning it says a chiyuv karet by somebody that's eating basar kodesh betuma, and it says a chiyuv karet that somebody that comes into the Bet HaMikdash betuma. You remember we always talking about two different tameh mikdash v'kodashav. You remember we always talk about tameh, meaning you came to the Bet HaMikdash when you're tameh, right? That's called abba lamikdash v'ata tameh, or ata ochel betuma. So 2 minutes, ata tameh, and you're eating basar kodesh, right, which is tahor, or the opposite. You're tahor and you're eating basar kodesh, which is tameh. Exactly. Yeah. Right, and that's what we kept on speaking about on Kippur also, if you remember that it was coming letaher mikdash kodesh vekodoshav. Remember the basar kodesh vekodoshav. So he says v'chi katavahu, when it's written over there la'achar zrika, only after zrika. Meaning this entire concept was after they sprinkled the blood. Now you came and you ate the basar kodesh, but not before the sprinkling of the blood. So he says in yes, but beforehand it's nothing yet. Yeah, no, but it's nothing. That's what I'm saying. Meaning that the only isur only starts after the sprinkling of the blood. Before the sprinkling of the blood, it didn't do anything yet. So therefore, that's why it's going to be a special halacha. Okay, so he says in Ken, if so, Leimekra, the pasuk should say bekodesh lotiga. What is bechol kodesh? Shmamina, two different things. Meaning the ikar of the pasuk is talking about after zrika, and the word bechol is teaching you even before zrika. So if you ate it before zrikat adam, selam mshos kilu you ate it après zrikat adam. Yeah, so avant c'est comme après.
After.
No, we wanted to say that it only applies afterwards and not before. Comes the Gemara and says, why does it say then bechol kodesh? So the word bechol comes to include even before. Meaning, if it just said kodesh lo tiga, that's after. That's après zrikat adam. After the sprinkling of the blood, right? But once it says bechol kodesh lo tiga, that's even before. The word bechol. Okay? The gufa, and says the Gemara, tameh she'achal basar kodesh lifnei zrika, the Shakish says lokeh. Rabbi Yochanan amar lokeh. So Amar Abaye says machloket is betumat aguf, aval betumat basar ledivra akol lokeh. According to everybody, you're going to be lokeh. Tamar Krab, as the pasuk says, veha basar, right? Lerabot etzim ulvona de la bnei achila ninu v'afilu rabinu kra'a. What does that mean? Right? I just told you that there's two different ways of eating basar kodesh. One of them is that you are tameh and you're eating basar tahor of the Bet HaMikdash, of the Mizbeach. Then the other one is that you are tahor and you're eating basar tameh, meaning the basar became tameh. and then you're eating it. Now it's kodshi, but you're not allowed to eat it anymore. The second it becomes tameh, that's it. So there's two different ways of doing it. So he comes and he says, when are we talking about the machloket before the sprinkling of the blood? Only by tumat haguf. Yeah, that according to the Shakish, you're loke, and Rabbi Yochanan and loke. But if we're talking about tumat basar, that means the basar is tameh, and you are tahor. According to everybody, loke, you get lashes. Why? The Amar Kra, because the pasuk says v'habasar. Yeah, what does it mean v'habasar? 39 as always. It's always the same. It's always the same. Yeah. So he says the reason why is he says v'habasar. What does it mean v'habasar? Lerabot etzim ulvuna. Do you know this comes to include even wood and frankincense? They love bnei achila. You don't eat wood. You don't eat the frankincense. V'afilu achi, and still Rabinu Kra. The pasuk says that it's going to be malkut. The Rava Amar, Rava comes and he says, the machloket is betumat aguf. By betumat basar, tivra kol enoloke. You're not going to get lashes. My time on what's reasoning? Kevin de lo karina be, because we don't have the pasuka vetumato alav venichreta. Lo karina be v'abasar sheigaba b'chol tomeh lo right lo yachel. Meaning it comes out like this. We have a machloket. When is the machloket? Capish? We have a machloket. When is a machloket? One more time. There's a machloket between Rabbi Yochanan and Resh Lakish. Resh Lakish says loke. Rabbi Yochanan says eno loke. Now there it was talking about tameh she'achal basar kodesh lifnei zrika. Okay. Now the first one is Abaye. Abaye comes and he says the machloket is only betumat haguf. That means the machloket tumat haguf. If it's going to get before or not. Yeah. The machloket is going to be tumat haguf. But if it's going to be tumat basar, ledivrei akol loke. You do get lashes. Comes Rava, he says the exact opposite. The machloket is betumat haguf, but if it's going to be tumat basar, ledivrei akol eno loke. Now we have to understand the reasoning of each one. So the reasoning of Rava, of Abaye, sorry, was because the pasuk says basar. So the basar is coming to include everything, even things which you don't usually eat. So if you ate it and you are tameh, you get lashes. That is the shita of Abaye. Rava comes and he says, you don't get lashes. He says, why not? He says, because it's written, we don't have a tumato alav v'nichreta. There's no karet on it. So therefore he comes and he says, because the karet is only after zrika. Okay? It says in the pasuk, kol tahor yochal basar, והנפש אשר תוך הבשר מזבח השלמים אשר להשם, תומתו עליו ונכרתה הנפש ההיא מהמאה. So he comes now and he says like this. Ve'amar more is going to ask now a question on Rava. Yeah, Rava comes and he says like this. He says, Ve'abasar is coming l'rabot etzim l'vuna. So what are you saying then? Meaning, if a person comes and he ate etzim, or he ate levuna, it's not roi lachila. So if it's not going to be roi lachila, so therefore, why in the world then is it going to be? Why would there be even? Why would there be anything? So this is actually a proof to Abaye. Abaye actually brought this proof. Abaye said that this concept. So he answers, it was already kitchu bikli sharet. So it's ki'ilu. It was already that they brought all the matirav. The Tnan, kol sheyesh lo matirim, yishekaravu matirav, kol she'en lo matirim, yishekadesh bikli sharet. Yeah, everyone understood. One more time. Doctor, before I came and I said, it's only after the sprinkling of the blood. Why? Pourquoi? Yeah, Mordechus, lama. למה זה דווקא אחרי זריקת הדם ולא לפני? It's a pasuk. The pasuk says like this. כל טהור יאכל בשר. Anybody that's טהור can eat the בשר. והנפש שתוך הבשר מזבח שלו וטומאתו עליו, but if somebody's going to be טמא, they get karet. The fact that it says there's a smichut between כל טהור יאכל בשר והנפש שתאכל, we learn that there's going to be an onesh v'tameh she'achal basar kodesh is only if he ate the basar kodesh, which was permitted to eat. כשאני אומר כל טהור בביתך יאכל בשר, מתי מותר לאכול בשר? When is it מותר? After חזק ברוך, only after the זריקת דמים. So therefore, if you ate it before the זריקת דמים, there's no karet. Because the pasuk was juxtaposed. You had כל טהור בביתך יאכל בשר, והנפש הנוגע וטמא, right, ונכרתה. He gets karet. So it's mashma that you only get karet אחרי זריקת דמים. לפני זריקת דמים, there's no karet. So says the Gemara, right? Says the Gemara. Here, what we're talking about was, even if it was לפני זריקת הדמים, אתה קידשת את זה בכלי שרת. וברגע שקידשת את זה, you sanctified it in a כלי שרת, it's already כאילו that everything was done. You don't have to do anything else. So that's what he says here. דתנן, כל שיש לו מתירים, if you've got matirim, chayav al tameh ochlo only when you brought the matirim, which is basically usually when you bring the blood, when you sprinkle blood. But if you don't have matirim, you're going to be chayav once it was sanctified in kli sharet. So here the same thing. It was like the kli sharet. Itmar, it was stated, hama'aleh evre behemat mea al gabe mizbeach. If you're going to be maktir, evre behemat mea. This is the evarim of behemat mea. Asus, a gamal, whatever it is on the mizbeach. Resh Lakish Amar, Resh Lakish comes and he says, Loke. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, Eno Loke. Rabbi Yochanan says, Eno Loke. Resh Lakish comes and he says, Loke. Right? Why? Tehora in Tumalo. It's only going to be Tehora and not Tmeah. So he says, Velava ba miklal aseh, right? Lokin alav. And in lava ba miklal aseh, we are going to give lashes. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, Lokin alav. Rabbi Yochanan comes and he says, En Lokin alav. Lava ba miklal aseh and Lokin alav. Because the lava ba miklal aseh, we're not going to get lashes. Okay? So Itmar, it was stated, if somebody's going to bring up evre behemat me'ah, so we're talking about, for example, like a sus or a gamal on the mizbeach. Resh Lakish Amar, Resh Lakish says he gets lashes. Rabbi Yochanan says he doesn't get lashes. Resh Lakish says he gets lashes. Why? Because it's only a kosher animal, right? Teora'in tumeah lo, and therefore it's going to come and you're going to get lashes because it's a negative commandment coming from a positive commandment. Meaning, since it said in the pasuk that you could only bring these type of animals, mashma, כאילו זה דדוס, כן? אתה מדייק, שבאמת טמאה אתה לא יכול להביא. אז אם אתה לא יכול להביא באמת טמאה, זה לאו הבא מכלל עשה. It's a negative commandment, a לאו שבא מ-positive commandment. So, לוקין לאו, you get lashes. ורבי יוחנן אמר, לוקין לאו, למה לאו מכוסם לוקין לאו? So, מוטב רבי ירמיה asks, אותה תאכלו, only that you could eat, ולא בבהמה טמאה. ולא בכלל עשה. Meaning, this is against the shakish. You should get lashes, because at the end of the day, right, if you're going to eat from them, you should also get lashes. I'm going to explain it to you. Nobody argues. He says, why? He says, you're not going to be, because it's not a mitzvat aseh to bring a behemat teorah and not a teorah. He says, ki plige, when is a machloket? Bechaya, in a pure animal, but a wild animal. You're not over at all. Rabbi Yochanan comes and he says you're going to be over in naseh because behema in chaya lo. It's only a behema, meaning you're only allowed to bring a domesticated animal to the mizbeach, not a wild animal. Right? Chaya is a wild animal. Behema, domesticated animal. The Shakish Amar and over below klum. He says why? It's only a mitzvah. זה לא חובה. זה מצווה. יש דברים שזה מצווה לעשות, לא שזה חובה לעשות. So because of that, he says there's no problem. So Motiv Rava comes and he says, Ilu Nemar Korban Lashem Behema. If it was going to be written Korban Lashem Behema, Hayiti Omer, I would have said Chaya Bichla Behema. Kinyan Shneimar, just like it says, Zot Behema Shetochelu, Shor Sechet V'Zim Tzalutzi. Tamunumar comes to teach you Bakar Vatzon. Bakar Vatzon Amarti Lecha V'lo Chaya. So Yachol, I would have thought to say Lo Yavi, V'im Mevi Kasher. Halama זה דומה לתלמיד שאמר לרבו, it's like a תלמיד that tells his rabbi, יביא לי חיטים, bring me חיטים. And he brought him חיטים ושעורים. שאינו כמעביד על דבריו. He's not going to be מעביד על דבריו, אלא מוסיף על דבריו. He's adding to his words. וכשר, and it's going to be כשר. So תמון אומר בקו הצאן, בקו הצאן אמרתי לך ולא חיה. It's דווקא בקו הצאן ולא חיה. halama זה הדבר דומה. לתלמיד שאמר לרבו, אל תביא לי חיטים. תביא לו חיטים ושעורים, שאינו כמוסיף על דבריו, אלא כמעביר על דבריו. It's not מוסיף, he's מעביר. Right? Meaning like this. Sometimes there's some that you do things, you add on to the words, and sometimes you go against the words, and there's a difference. So here, what he's trying to say is that sometimes he's coming and saying, It's like the bidiyuk. Exactly. Sometimes you're just adding. You're adding. Okay, it's mosif. But sometimes mamash, you're over. You're going against. Yes. That is just like exactly right. Fine. So says the Gemara. 1 second. Lamedalad mubet on the top. Upasul. So tiyuvta the Resh Lakish tiyuvta. So this bemet is going to be a tiyuvta against Resh Lakish. The real bemet, he said you're allowed to bring a chayat Torah. He's saying this bemet, it's a good question against him. Fine. 34b. Okay. The kulan shekiblu. Right. Ba minei Resh Lakish from Yochanan. Resh Lakish comes and he asks the question from Yochanan. Pasul. Maushi yaseh shiraim. What happens if he comes and he accepted the blood of the korban and he threw it on the mizbeach? Does the blood now that is left over become shiraim and therefore it's not oil zrika and therefore that's it, kaddish, right? Shiraim is leftovers. You never heard of it? Shiraim me'arebe, right? Shiraim are leftovers. Okay, so he says, right? Does it become shiraim and therefore, right? What happens now is that that's it. You can't do anything anymore with this korban because everything became pasul. Or maybe I'm going to say it doesn't change anything. Nothing happens. So Amarle, he says, right, he says, sorry, en osa shiraim, it's not going to make shiraim, ela chutz zmenon v'chutz imkomo, only chutz zmenon v'chutz imkomo. Choel u'menatzel lepigulo, because since this is zika, it's going to be menatzel for the pigul. But as viv matni hachi, ba minei Resh Lakish from Yochanan, right, Resh Lakish comes and he asks from Yochanan, kos, that he's got dam, is going to be pasul, maushi yaseh shiraim. So for example, they took the blood, and they took it outside of the Hazara. It becomes pasul. So now the question is, what happens now? Does that make the rest shiraim and therefore it's pasul or not? Remember, the shiraim is basically.
So if there is still the flow.
Very good, very good, very good. So says the Gemara, Amar le pasul gufei, ma'isvar lecha. He says when a person that's pasul himself, what do you hold? If you're going to tell me that the pasul is mashvi shiraim, so the course is going to be pasul nami mashvi shiraim. But if you're going to tell me pasul is not going to make it, maybe the course pasul is also not going to make it shiraim. So basically, the first thing that we says, even before going where you went, doctor, that you asked, you got a you brought a good proof. He just says 1 second. I don't understand. Why don't you compare both together? You've got a kos, and then you've got the pasul. So if you're going to tell me that the pasul does not make shiraim, the kos does not make shiraim. If you're going to tell me it does, maybe it does. So if he says no. Kos maushi yasel chavro dachui or shiraim. Do you say that it's dachui or do you say that it is shiraim? So Amalei, he comes and he says it's a plukta, it's a machloket between Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbanan. The Tanya was learned in the Braita lemala. What does it mean now lemala? Who lemala who omer et damo yishpoch. Right? So it says the kol damo yishpoch. Lemata omer vet kol dama yishpoch. מניין לחטאת שקיבל דמה בארבעה כוסות, ונתן מתנה אחת מכוס זה ומתנה אחת מכוס זה שכולן נשפכים ליסוד, תמול לומר ואת כל דמה ישפוך. Imagine right now, you receive the blood in 4 different cups. And you come and you take each cup, you come and you do one of the sprinkling. How do we know that you have to take from all the cups and you pour everything in the yisod? The yisod was on the bottom. You remember the 2 little holes? And they cut. How do you know? Whatever you give all 4 from 1 cup, everything is thrown down. So no, vedamo haketzad hu nishpach leyesod v'nishpach liyama. It's only going to be nishpach leyesod, but the rest of the blood is going to be nishpachim lama. Okay, so he says, Rabbi Lazar Shimon omer minayin lechatat shekibel dama me'arba kosot ונתן 4 מתנות מכוס אחד שכולן נשפכים ליסוד, תמול לומר ואת כל דמה ישפוך, והכתיב ואת דמה ישפוך. That there's no din shidayim and nishpachim lisod, but rather it's going to be thrown into the amat hamayim. Okay, so there's 2 things. You've got the amat hamayim, and then you've got the yisod. The yisod is on the bottom of the zbeach. The amat hamayim is going to be further down. So he comes and he says, there's going to be 2 different places. Fine. The next 2 dots. Kibela kasher v'natan ala pasul. Imagine right now somebody that was kasher received the blood, and then he gave it to somebody that's pasul. So again, they give it back to him, or the same thing with the right hand to the left hand, and all these things. With tzricha, we need all these cases. Diashvina was only going to tell you at pasul. Hava mina, I would have thought to say what is pasul? Tameh, right? The chazi lavodat tzibur, because he's still fitting for avodat tzibur. Aval small, the small is not chazi lavodat tzibur. I would say that it's not going to be kosher. So that's why I had to tell you the left hand. And once you put it in the left hand, you have to give it back to the right hand. Vayashvina, and if it was only going to be teaching you the left hand, which is small, there is going to be kosher Yom Kippurim. Right, when the Kohen Gadol comes into the Lachtir Ketoret and Kodesh Kodeshim, he has to bring something with the left hand. Aval klichol, But if there's going to be klichol, that there's never a takana, basically, I would say no. If it was only going to be klichol, you could still sanctify it. But the other ones, which is going to be the psul small or it falls on the floor, imalo, I would say no. So tzricha. That's why basically he says that you need all the different chidushim, that even though there was a psul involved, you come and you make it kosher again. So ask the Gemara, so why doesn't it become be'emet pushed off? Dichui. So Amal Ravina Lavashi Acham Ravim Yemedifti Mishmed Rava Hamani. Who is this? Chanana Mitzrihu. The let le dechuyin, that he doesn't hold of dechui. The time was learned on the right. Chanana Mitzrihu mer afilu dam bekos. Yeah, even if you're gonna have dam in the kos, mevi chaverom zaveglo. Right, you bring from the shuk another one, and then that's it. Everyone understood what happened. According to him, even if they already slaughtered the Said, which is done on the inside, and they accepted it, right? And let's say all of a sudden the Sayyid Mashleach died. Remember that there's a Sayyidin, they had to be a group, had to be a zug, a couple. Yeah, you had to be two. So now what happens right now? You come, you bring the Sayyid on the inside, and all of a sudden Sayyid Mashleach dies. So he says, even if you have it in the kos, telech lashuk, tikach od Sayyid, ותביא אותו.
בלי הגרלה?
בלי הגרלה, אין הגרלה, אתה כבר הרגת את השעיר להשם.
לא, היו שניים.
עשית הגרלה.
לעזאזל מת, פתאום, לפני שזרקו.
כן, אבל אתה כבר עשית הגרלה.
כן.
אז כשעשית הגרלה, זהו, נגמר. זה היה להשם. אתה באת ועשית שחיטה להשם. on the seed. But the other one, and then the other one dies. So he says, even if he dies, after I do the shchita and I have the blood in the cup, you could still go to the shuk and get another animal and use that one for the seila zedin. Even if it's going to be in the cup, the blood is in the cup. אתה רצית להגיד שהוא מת לפני ששחטת. אני מדבר, לא, שם ודאי אתה יכול להביא עוד אחד. פה אני מדבר שאפילו אתה עשית שחיטה, and now it's in the cup. עדיין תלך לשוק, תיקח עוד אחד, תביא לעזאזל.
שחטת אותו.
לא, שחטת בשביל השם. understood? Yeah, obviously, but I'm saying, but that's what's happening. That's what he says. No, but the chidush is that there's no dichui. Dichui means that I don't push it off, because I would have said, you know what, maybe bemet it has to be pushed off. You have to start again. I would have thought to say maybe you have to start again. No, there's no dichui. No. The Seil Hashem, yeah, the Seil Hashem. I would have thought to say both.
No, the one of Hashem
is okay. The other one you just bring. Ravashi says, "Kol shebiyado avi dichui." Anything which is in your hand to fix, it's not considered dichui. This is a musar for today. Kol ma shebiyado, anything that you have in your hands to fix, it's never considered that it's pushed off. First of all, Mordechai said, "Al titchez," don't push it off. But more than that, it's not considered pushed off. That means lo biga, you could still fix it. Fix it. Don't no, it's already chaval. No. Fix it. Again, it's there. Yeah. So Amar Rav Shaya, says Rav Shaya, Kavated Ravashi Mistabra. Man Shama Ledile, who's the one that holds Dichuyin? Rav Yehuda. Titram Vodom Rav Yehuda, Nishpach Adam Yamnuto Mishterach. If the blood of the Sira Primi is spilled, the Mishtalech has to die. Meta Mishtalech, if the Mishtalech Yishafech Adam, spill out the blood. That means this Rav Yehuda is the one that holds that there is Dichuy. ושמין עלי דאמר, he holds כל שבידו להביא דיחוי, it's not דיחוי. זה תניא רבי יהודה אומר, כל צדיק אחד היה ממלא מדם תערובת. So כל זה ככה כדי לעשות, שמע מינה, כל שבידו לא דיחוי, שמע מינה. So that's what you learn. וגופה תניא, we learned in a bright, רבי יהודה אומר, כל אחד היה ממלא מדם תערובת, שאם ישפך אחד מהם, because if one of them spilled, it's מכשירו. אמרו לו לרבי יהודה, ועלו להתקבל בכלי, it wasn't accepted in the כלי. So מנה ידע, how do they know? אלא שמא לא נתקבל בכלי, maybe they weren't accepted in the כלי. Right? And therefore it's going to become פסול. He says, it's only if it actually was accepted, right, in the kli. Okay? So, how do you know then? So he says, right, he says, they were always so quick, sometimes it would spill. Meaning, sometimes you have to be careful, because in mitzad echad, it's good, they're quick, but mitzad sheni, you have to be very, very careful. Because, when you're running, what happens when you run? Sometimes things spill, so be careful, right?